You are the biggest fraud that the Senate has ever had. You are a disgrace to this institution and a coward through and through. It wasn't a senator who said these words, he was the FBI director. And before this explosion, Adam Schiff had a single question for Kash Patel.
Did Epstein traffic young women only for himself, or were there others involved? Patel's answer had surprised both Democrats and Republicans, and that answer ignited Schiff's most intense confrontation of the day. September 16, 2025, Senate Judiciary Committee, a hearing lasting over 4 hours. If you watch this video until the end, you will understand how the internet troll line was formed. Schiff, California senator, former federal prosecutor, the chief manager of the presidential impeachment trials, someone who has served for years on the Intelligence Committee. And that morning, just hours before the hearing, he pursued a question that Kennedy had asked. Did Epstein smuggle young women only for himself? Patel's answer to Kennedy had already echoed in the courtroom. For himself. There is no reliable information that he smuggled for others. None. Schiff received that answer and directly conveyed it to Patel. If you want to follow this topic, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what was said in this hearing has turned into permanent records that directly affect the course of the Epstein files discussion. September 16, 2025, had already been a tough morning for Patel. The false social media statement about the Charlie Kirk assassination, the senior agent firings, allegations of morale hitting rock bottom at the FBI. But the real tension point was the Epstein files, and this tension had started from an unexpected front. Kennedy, Republican Louisiana senator, had asked Patel directly, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to beside himself? Patel's answer was clear, to himself. There is no reliable information that he is smuggling for someone else. If there were, I would have filed the case yesterday. Kennedy had noted this. Is there no answer? Patel, for the information we have. This answer created an unexpected silence in the room, because the MAGA base had been talking about the Epstein list for years. Patel himself had argued that these files should be opened. And now, as the FBI director, his response implied that there was no such thing as a list. Adam Schiff, reminding Kash Patel of John Kennedy's previous question, directly and clearly framed the issue by asking, you said you saw the majority of the files and answered, none, no credible information, to the question of who else Epstein trafficked these women to. Is that your testimony today? That no one else was trafficked in all the files? Patel went on the defensive. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anyone else. Schiff cut in. So did he traffic others? Patel's response came with careful framing. What you just read is what I said, and I said it 10 minutes ago. Let the record reflect my testimony. Schiff hesitated. I just don't want there to be any misunderstanding. Because there are victims like Virginia Giuffre. They testified to the contrary, and you are telling the American people today. The Epstein list is just one name, and that is Jeffrey Epstein. Do you want us to believe this? In this moment where Kash Patel deflected the discussion with his response, I'm not saying this, you are. It gradually took on a cyclical structure. The striking point was that Patel neither clearly said yes nor definitively said no, oscillating between the two positions, and Adam Schiff particularly emphasized this ambiguity, recording it in the minutes. Schiff moved from Epstein to Maxwell. And this transition set the stage for one of the toughest moments of the trial. Blanche, you asked about the 9-hour meeting with Maxwell. Shortly after that meeting, Maxwell was transferred to a minimum security facility, which is normally not suitable for sex offenders. Who made this decision? Patel placed the blame for this decision on the Bureau of Prisons. Schiff's response. Do you want the American people to believe this? Do you think they are stupid? Patel. No, I think the American people believe in the truth. I don't deal with the details of prisoner transfers every day. And at this point, the situation took a different turn. Patel continued. I am protecting this country, making historic reforms and fighting against someone like you weaponizing intelligence. Schiff didn't let it go. Schiff tried to continue his previous argument while Patel interrupted him. The two men started talking at the same time. Patel: I'm not surprised. You continue to lie from the place the House gave you and raise money for your own show. Then came the words: you are the biggest fraud sitting in the Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution, and you are a coward. When Chuck Grassley intervened by banging his gavel, Adam Schiff responded in a calm but firm tone, saying, you can make an internet troll the FBI director, but he will still remain an internet troll. At that point, Dick Durbin called for order, and Grassley cut off the debate by saying, both of you, shut up. If you've watched this far, hit the like button, because this conflict erupted at the point where multiple critical issues piled up, and each one has its own record. It is important to understand the background of this conflict. Schiff and Patel are two political profiles standing at opposite ends of the spectrum. Patel had long targeted Schiff. He had harsh criticisms of Schiff in the Trump-Russia investigation. Schiff, on the other hand, was accusing Patel of turning the FBI into a political tool. And that morning, as the mounting tension between the two sides was revealed through the Epstein headline, the crucial point was overlooked. As the discussion surrounding Kash Patel grew, the fundamental question got lost in the shuffle, and the question, is there a single name on the Epstein list, remained unanswered amidst all the noise. And that unanswered question was what both Kennedy and Schiff pointed out. Patel's response to Kennedy became one of the most debated statements of the trial. Over the years, many politicians, including Trump supporters, have argued that the Epstein client list should be made public. Patel was someone who had said these files should be opened before he became FBI director. But the response he gave as director said there was no reliable information in the files pointing to others. This can be interpreted in two different ways. First reading: the files really do not contain this information, and Patel is telling the truth. Second reading: there is something in the files, but the reliable information standard is paving the way for them to remain secret. Schiff's questions were questioning this second reading, and Patel's answers never opened a clear door. After the hearing, Schiff shared a critical detail in an interview with MSNBC. During Maxwell's 9-hour interview with Todd Blanche, information emerged, according to Maxwell's statements, that members of Trump's cabinet were linked to Epstein. And Blanche, also Trump's former personal attorney, hadn't asked for those names. According to Schiff, he didn't even bother to ask who they were. This information further complicated the question of why Maxwell was transferred to a minimum security facility. This trial had an important context. In July 2025, the DOJ and FBI had made a joint statement. The Epstein investigation was being closed. There is no new name to be charged. Blanche told CNN, nothing in it allowed us to judge anyone. This decision faced strong backlash from both Democrats and some Republicans. Josh Hawley called for the release of the files, while Marjorie Taylor Greene announced she would disclose names. However, months after these outbursts, Kash Patel had to say, there is no credible information during his Senate testimony in September 2025, making the difference between previous claims and formal testimony more apparent.
One of the striking things about this trial was Kennedy's role. Kennedy was a Republican, but he openly challenged Patel on the Epstein issue. This issue is not going away, and the fundamental question for the American people is, they know Epstein was trafficking young women. They want to know if he did it to anyone else beside her. This statement was directly addressing Patel. And after Kennedy, Schiff asking the same question in a different way showed that pressure was being applied in the same direction from two different political fronts. After the hearing, Schiff said on MSNBC, it was difficult to understand the testimony. It's such a far-fetched thing. Jeffrey Epstein only trafficked women for himself, not for anyone else. Basically, there is only one name on Epstein's list, and that is Jeffrey Epstein. This was the essence of his testimony. Schiff continued, of course, the ones who will be most affected by this are the victims of Epstein's trafficking.
But it seems that Kash Patel and the FBI now want the American people and Trump's own base to believe this. There is only one name on the Epstein list, and that is Jeffrey Epstein. This assessment summarized the reasoning behind Schiff's questions during the hearing. This hearing, which took place on September 16, 2025, left a lasting mark on many levels. Kennedy and Schiff asking the same question from two different angles, were there others, was recorded in the congressional record. Kash Patel's response of no credible information, the questions about the Ghislaine Maxwell transfer and Todd Blanche's role in the process, and the heated verbal exchange between Adam Schiff and Patel, the biggest fraudster, internet troll, all made it into the official record. And these records will resurface as reference points in every future discussion about Jeffrey Epstein. There is a background that makes this trial even more significant. Before becoming the FBI director, Patel had repeatedly argued during his time in the opposition that the Epstein files should be opened. In his public statements, he emphasized that the files should be shared with the public and that powerful individuals should not be protected. This statement had been embraced by a large portion of the MAGA base, but when he became the director, the situation changed. After the U.S. Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation closed the investigation in July 2025, stating there was no information to support further prosecution, Kash Patel's use of the phrase, no credible information, in the Senate in September 2025 was directly targeted by Adam Schiff as a contradiction. Schiff highlighted the difference between Patel's past stance on the opening of files and his current position. Patel did not accept this framing, but his response did not clearly explain the connection between the two positions. That morning, the question Kennedy asked, which Schiff had repeated several times, was simple. Did Epstein traffic others? Patel's answer was never a clear yes or no, and this uncertainty was not satisfactory to either side. Kennedy, this issue is not going away. Schiff, there is only one name on the Epstein list, and that is Jeffrey Epstein. Do you want us to believe that? Patel, I'm not saying that. These three sentences summarize that day. The answer is still not complete. The files have been partially released, but not in full. And the question of what the reliable information standard includes and excludes remains open. The Epstein Files Transparency Act passed by a vote of 427-1 in November 2025. Millions of pages have been published, but most of those pages are still controversial. The edits are being questioned, and the question of whether the list is really just a single name is awaiting an answer. This trial was one of the moments when that question was most discussed, and the answer is still not complete. Because sometimes the most important answer is not the one that is not given, but the new question that the given answer creates.